I'm Daniel, and I don't really know why I'm writing this. Maybe I just need to put it somewhere. Maybe I'm tired of the quiet. It's 3:17 a.m. and she's asleep in the other room. Or at least I think she is. Lately I can't tell. She sleeps light, restless, turns over often. When she breathes, it's shallow, uncertain, like she's afraid of making a sound. Our marriage used to have noise, small things, the sound of her humming while she cooked, the way she'd laugh before finishing a story, the way she used to touch my shoulder when she walked past me. Those things stopped a while ago, and I didn't notice when. It wasn't sudden, just gradual, a slow fade, like the dimming of a light you don't realize is off until you can't read anymore. I remember the first time I asked her to go out, just the two of us. It was a Tuesday. I'd come home early, thought I'd surprise her. She was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I asked if she wanted to go out for dinner. Somewhere quiet. She smiled faintly, not really looking up, said she was tired. Maybe another time. I said sure. I watched her fingers keep scrolling even after I stopped talking. That small detail, the movement, stuck with me more than her words. I asked again a week later. Same answer, same tone. She didn't even have to think. Not tonight. After the third time, I stopped asking for a while. Then I started again. I told myself it was just a phase. Everyone goes through that. Work stress, routine, fatigue. I tried to be patient. But patience turns into something else when it's one-sided. You start watching for signs. You start memorizing them without meaning to. The way she kept her phone face down. The way she paused before answering a simple question. The way she smiled, but only when she was looking at a screen. I told myself not to read into it. I still did. Every night I'd try again, in small ways. A touch on her arm, a kiss on her neck when she was cooking. Sometimes she'd freeze slightly, like my hand was something unfamiliar. Once, I asked if she was okay. She said she was fine, just tired. Always tired, always distant. I started counting how often she said it. It became a number in my head, growing slowly. At first, I thought maybe she just didn't notice the distance, that maybe I hadn't been attentive enough. So I tried harder. I made dinner. I cleaned. I tried to talk about things that used to make her laugh. Nothing worked. Her voice stayed even, polite, as if we were acquaintances sharing a space. I remember one night, I told her carefully that I missed her. She smiled, a small, polite smile, said, "I'm right here," but she wasn't, not really. I could feel the gap even when she sat next to me. Her warmth didn't reach me. That night, I touched her hand. She didn't pull away, but she didn't hold mine either. She just let it sit there, motionless. I withdrew first. I don't think she noticed. The rejection wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, almost tender. That made it worse. I started to watch her differently after that. Not with anger, not even with sadness. Just observation. The way her tone softened when she spoke to others. The way she leaned slightly forward when she laughed on the phone. The small sigh when she ended the call. None of it was proof of anything, but it built a shape in my mind. Something unfinished, something I couldn't name. A few weeks later, I tried again. I came into the bedroom late, told her I couldn't sleep. She didn't look up from her book. I sat beside her. The lamplight was warm on her face, but her eyes stayed cold. I said I miss being close. She said, "You always say that when you can't get your way." The words hit harder than I thought they would. I didn't respond, just sat there, feeling the space between us stretch. She turned another page like nothing happened. I watched her fingers trace the edge of the paper. I don't know why that detail stayed with me. Maybe because it was so calm. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even defensive, just indifferent. That's when something shifted in me. Not a decision, not revenge, just a quiet click, like a lock sliding into place. I stopped trying after that. Not completely. At least not outwardly. I still said goodnight. Still asked about her day. But something in the tone changed, and I think she heard it. A cooler rhythm. Fewer words. I noticed she started to glance at me longer before speaking, as if measuring the distance too. Once, I said I felt like our marriage was getting cold. I said it simply, without accusation. She looked at me for a long time, then said, "Maybe that's just what happens when love gets comfortable." I remember the way she said comfortable. It sounded like dead. I didn't reply. She went back to her phone. That was her cruelest answer, though she didn't mean it that way. It wasn't shouting or mockery. It was dismissal, the kind that erases you slowly. I sat there until the light hurt my eyes, then got up and left the room. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even close it. Just walked out quietly, like leaving a place I no longer belonged to. I started sleeping on the couch after that, though she never told me to. The first few nights, she came out once or twice, stood in the doorway, asked if I was okay. I said yes. After that, she stopped asking. We began moving around each other like ghosts. I still noticed everything. How she stirred her coffee slower. How she started wearing her hair up again, the way she used to before we met. How she smiled faintly at texts she never showed me. But I didn't ask. I just watched. Each night I lay there, listening to her footsteps, memorizing the rhythm. The rejection became routine, familiar, almost comforting, because in that repetition, I could finally predict something. I knew how she'd answer. I knew when she'd turn away. I knew exactly how far her voice could reach before it faded. There's a strange peace in that kind of certainty. You stop expecting warmth. You just observe the absence. And once you learn to live inside that absence, you can start to shape it. That's where this all began, not with anger, but with quiet curiosity. How far could someone drift before they noticed they were lost? I think that's what I started testing. In small ways. But that's for later. For now, all I remember is the sound of her saying I'm tired again, and me nodding, pretending to believe it. Then the soft click of the bedroom door. Then silence. Always silence. Hi, it's still me. I can't sleep. I think I haven't slept properly in months. Not because of noise, or the apartment, or work. Because of her. I watch her now, not to provoke or confront, not to force an answer. I just notice. Everything she does fills the space I've been given. I notice how she wakes. The light in the morning, thin and pale, hits her face before she opens her eyes. She stretches, slowly, almost absent-mindedly, and sits at the edge of the bed. I can tell by the way she exhales when she sits that she feels the weight of staying upright. Not tired, not angry, just worn in a way I can recognize. She shuffles to the bathroom. I'm on the couch, pretending to scroll on my phone, pretending I sleepily check messages. But I don't. I'm cataloging the way she brushes her teeth, how her hair falls when she leans over the sink, how her gaze darts to the mirror and then away. Small details, nothing anyone else would notice. Yet they matter. They map a rhythm I can follow. The coffee she makes, black, always. I watch her measure the grounds like it's a ritual I wasn't invited to. She hums sometimes, low, barely audible. I note which tunes. The ones she hums when she thinks no one is listening are the ones I memorize first. I do not speak. I do not approach. That would ruin it. Observation is more satisfying than conversation. She moves through the apartment in patterns. The route from bedroom to kitchen. The pause by the windowsill. The way she folds her sweaters, meticulously, almost obsessively. I imagine this is how she arranges the world she lives in, shaping it to exclude me without thinking. I let that thought sit, quietly, because it's not meant to upset her. It just exists. The longer I watch, the more I notice shifts. A twitch in her jaw when she reads something on her phone. A deeper breath when she thinks she's alone. The tilt of her head when she hesitates to answer my questions. These pauses, brief, almost imperceptible, tell me more than words. I've begun to remember them in order. Morning, coffee, shower, the way she lingers near the bookshelf, sometimes touching the spines, sometimes just letting her hand hover. These are rituals, and I catalog them like someone counting stars. I'm not trying to control her. I'm not planning confrontation. I simply track the architecture of her quiet life, the way her presence interacts with this apartment that I still call ours. The repetition is hypnotic, every day slightly different, and every day the same. I start to anticipate movements before they happen. She reaches for the sugar with her left hand, even when the right is free. She adjusts the thermostat by half a degree, then check the window. She glanced toward the couch, fleetingly, as if sensing eyes, then look away. Each small choice, repeated and measured, builds a pattern. I imagine writing it down, charting it on a spreadsheet. But I don't. It's enough to memorize. I begin to notice how the little things add up. The silences, the barely there sighs, the subtle avoidance when I sit too close. They accumulate like invisible bricks, forming a wall between us. I feel it, but I don't need to knock it down. I don't want to. There's a strange comfort in the distance. I find myself waiting for these moments of movement like they are signals, tiny pulses in a quiet machine. She hums again, now while drying a dish. I note the rhythm, slower than yesterday, and something in me acknowledges it without emotion, just recognition. She leaves a mug on the counter, turns toward the window. I watch how sunlight hits her hair, how the strands catch the light and create something fragile, temporary. I imagine she notices me sometimes. Maybe she feels eyes on her. I do not confirm it. I do not speak. I simply continue. There's a satisfaction in knowing, in quietly registering these patterns while pretending to scroll on my phone. It is not triumph, not yet, just comprehension. I observe her at dinner. She eats slowly, deliberately, cutting each bite the same way she always does. She talks, occasionally, about work, her voice flat, polite. I listen, sometimes nod, sometimes say nothing. Her reactions do not change. She continues, unaware that someone is noting the small rises and falls in tone, the flicker of expression that passes too quickly to catch. I catalog it all, store it internally. Later, she moves to the couch, book in hand. She reads for a long stretch, oblivious to the hour. I watch the light on the page, the way it reflects faintly on her face. I can almost hear her thoughts in the pauses between lines. I do not try to guess. I simply note. The pattern becomes more precise each day. I know when she will pause for a sip of tea. I know when she will glance toward the door. I know the small adjustments she makes when settling in. It is hypnotic, like watching water carve stone. Her presence shapes the space quietly, almost invisibly. I notice how she folds blankets in the evening, the care in each crease, the tilt of her head when she stares out the window after sunset, how she rearranges a cushion just so, then sits on it anyway, as if the act of perfection matters more than comfort. I realize I am learning her in ways no one else ever has, and yet, I am not claiming her, not trying to. I am less watching, observing, recording in the mind, frame by frame, moment by moment. There is a strange clarity in this. The world outside can be loud, chaotic, uncertain. Here, in the apartment, the structure of her life offers order, a rhythm I can follow without interference. No sudden movements, no harsh words, no anger, just observation, quiet understanding. I feel myself changing too. Slower, more deliberate. I move around the apartment carefully. I do not startle. I do not intrude. I adjust my presence to hers, not the other way around. I have learned which areas are hers and which I may occupy. I do not cross the invisible boundaries, and yet I notice everything within them. Her gestures, the way she tilts her head when thinking, the slight tapping of her foot when waiting for water to boil. Small, meaningless motions that become enormous in importance to me. I track them without marking them. I see her picking up a scarf, folding it just right, then laying it down. I see her pause at the window, fingers brushing the sill. I see her exhale after a long day, shoulders slumping just enough to make the room feel bigger. I imagine noting this in some hidden journal, but I do not. I let it exist in my mind, precise and untouched. Sometimes I wonder if this is obsession. I tell myself it is curiosity, attention, quiet companionship without words. She does not feel it, and that is how it works best. The more she exists unaware, the more complete the picture becomes. Nights are the same. I watch her sleep sometimes, from the couch, not close, not intrusive. I observe the rhythm of her breathing, the way she shifts, the way she curls slightly toward the blanket. Patterns in absence, a stillness that matches mine. I do not touch. I do not speak. I simply note. Morning comes, and she wakes, and the pattern starts over. I follow it without interruption, recording in memory what she cannot know. Each day is slightly different, but predictable. It is soothing. It is precise. It is mine, in a way words or declarations could never be. I do not need confrontation. I do not need triumph. Quiet attention is enough, and yet there is a hunger in it too. Not for possession, not for control, not for confession, but for understanding. I need to know that the patterns continue, that they hold, that they are unbroken. The apartment is filled with her motion, her presence, her habits, and I navigate it silently. There is a satisfaction in being known by her patterns without needing to be acknowledged. It is subtle, almost invisible, but it is complete. The quiet fixation has taken over my nights, my thoughts, my attention. I do not mind. I do not want to leave it. The calm in knowing her movements, her routines, her silences, is steadier than any conversation. She is unaware. She is alone, even when I am near. And that, somehow, is perfect. Hi, it's Daniel again. I don't know why I keep writing. Maybe just to mark time. She's awake now, but not in the same room. I can hear the uneven creak of the floorboards, the soft clink of a cup against the counter. She moves differently today, slower, careful, like she senses something, though she can't name it. I watch from the couch, from a distance that is neither close nor far. I don't need to speak. I don't need to explain. I just notice. The apartment feels different this morning, quieter, empty in ways that matter. She opens the curtains, lets light spill in. Her movements are small, precise, careful. I think she's aware of the absence, the way the rooms have shifted around her. The spaces she used to fill feel sharper, colder. I don't move. I do not intrude. I am steady, emotionless, observing. She pauses in the middle of the kitchen, fingers brushing the edge of the counter, eyes flicking toward the living room. She senses it, I can tell. Something is off, but she cannot identify it. She shifts, turns, pauses again. The hesitation is faint, almost invisible, but it tells me everything. I remain calm, unbroken. I do not approach. I do not speak. There is no confrontation, no accusation, no confession, only quiet attention. She moves through her morning, unaware of the invisible trace of observation that shadows her. I notice every tremor in her hand, every shallow breath, every small adjustment in posture. She sets down the mug she had picked up, turns to the sink, washes her hands slowly, deliberately. She glances at the doorway, again, as if expecting something to be there. I am there, but I am not. The paradox comforts me. She cannot name the source of her discomfort. It is only in the air, in the way the apartment feels narrower, sharper, colder than before. I do not smile. I do not celebrate. There is no triumph here, just satisfaction, quiet, complete, and untroubled. She lingers by the window longer than usual. I notice how the light catches her hair differently than yesterday, and I catalog it internally. She is still herself, still present, but something in the rhythm has shifted. She senses it vaguely, feels it in the way the apartment resists her usual patterns. I do not change my presence. I do not step forward. I sit, still, observing, letting the silence stretch. She moves toward the bedroom, stops at the threshold, glances around. The space is empty, the absence familiar, the quiet exact. She steps inside, pauses again, then leaves the door slightly ajar. I note it. I do not respond. I have learned that silence can speak louder than words. I watch her walk down the hall, then down the stairs. I hear the front door close. A soft click, brief but final. I remain on the couch, alone. The apartment is empty. She is gone, but not gone. The pattern continues in memory, in observation, in quiet fixation. I feel no rush, no urgency. The world outside her absence cannot reach me here. I sit in the stillness. I think about the months, the years, the slow progression of distance. How small gestures, repeated, build walls. How silence, when measured, can become a presence in itself. She does not know. She cannot know. And that is exactly how it should be. I feel no anger, no relief, No satisfaction that anyone else would recognize. Only calm, only quiet, only certainty. The apartment is mine now, and yet still hers in subtle ways. I know how she moves, how she breathes, how she leaves traces in the space. I do not interfere. I do not act. I simply observe, and that is enough. A day passes. I move through the apartment with precision, with awareness. I notice the echo of her footsteps that linger in the hallway, the warmth she left on the mug, the faint smell of her shampoo in the bathroom. These remnants, subtle and silent, are as telling as any conversation. I let them exist. I let them mark the space, and in doing so, I mark myself. Night comes. I sit in the darkness, the apartment quiet. I think about the way it always ends, not with shouting, not with confession, not with recognition, just the slow, exact fading of presence. She will return, or she will not. It makes no difference to me. The pattern, the observation, the quiet fixations, they remain. I have learned to be steady, untroubled, detached. There is satisfaction in being the silent witness, in holding the invisible thread that connects us without needing acknowledgement. The apartment breathes with her absence and my presence. The final silence is not lonely. It is complete. It is exact. And in that quiet, I am neither triumphant nor guilty, neither cruel nor kind. I am simply still, and it is enough.